The worst feeling one can ever experience is to get stuck in the middle of a case interview. We don't know what to do, we don't know what to say. And even added to that, the stupid thought of bombing the case keeps echoing in our heads. Too bad this does happen, and quite often for many of us. How do we avoid falling into that situation though? What to do when you happen to be there? Welcome to our next video. It's happening right here, right now. Hi, my name is Kim Tran, a former McKinsey consultant and the founder of this platform. Well, based on my experience coaching many candidates of various backgrounds and levels, there are 3 most popular spots where people get stuck. Let's tackle each one at a time. Number 1, getting stuck when needing to set up an issue tree or framework. Sometimes it's the first issue tree, but most of the times candidates really struggle after having explored and exhausted the first issue tree and not knowing what to do next. The textbook solution is to develop an issue tree drawing skills so good and robust you can react and proceed in any situation. While one part of our case interview end-to-end secrets, the business intuition part, does focus on that long-term purpose, the solution most last-minute case interviewees do is to learn as many frameworks as possible. More frameworks, better chance of drawing good issue trees. Like I said in the framework video, this is only partially true. Sometimes learning a lot of frameworks without knowing what to do with them is actually dangerous. So how do we find the sweet spot here? Well, there's one thing that never gets mentioned as a conventional framework, but works like a framework and is very safe to use. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but it works most of the time. And at worst, it won't hurt you to use it. The magical thing is segment. Whenever you feel like you don't know how to break things down amid the vast universe of possible frameworks to apply out there, just go for segmentation. Say things like, at this point, I would like to break down the situation. One good way to do this is through segmentation. What's the natural way to segment ABC in this industry? Number 2, people get stuck when getting a piece of data. A lot of the times that's because we don't intuitively perceive what a number or piece of data means in an unfamiliar industry. The quick tip here is to benchmark that number. A number can only have some meaning when put into perspective. 2 very good benchmarks are A, history, and B, competitor. Sales this year is at $10 billion. What's that in each of the last 5 years? Profit margin is 12%. What's that for competitors? Customer index is 82 points. How does that compare to historic index and that of competitors? Number 3, getting stuck in the middle of analysis. Of the 3, this is probably the most difficult to deal with. So first of all, we have to understand technically, why do people get stuck in the middle of the analysis? Well, if you watch the video Candidate-Led Case, technically it's impossible to get stuck like that. If you haven't watched that video or you haven't grasped that concept super well, I strongly recommend going back and watching that video before continuing here. The link is right here. Assuming you've got through the basic learning of the case interview, there are only 2 possible causes of getting stuck in the middle of analysis. And one is obvious. There are parts of our analysis that are not meaty. Come back to the movie theater example. Suppose the question to solve is, there is an anonymous feedback that the sound was really bad from his or her seat. If we divide the whole theater into the back area and the left area, we may not find the exact bad sounding seat and get stuck. On the other hand, if we divide the whole theater into left and right, or back and front, we almost never get stuck, except for one very special situation, like in number 2 below. So, number 2, the way we divided the problem somehow doesn't isolate the root cause. If you conduct case interviews, sometimes you'll run into this. You notice the interviewee do a perfectly meaty analysis, but it doesn't lead to the root cause or possible answer you have in mind. Suppose all the seats in the back have audio problems, and the interviewee divides the theater into left and right areas. This structure doesn't isolate the problem, and the interviewee will find partial problems in all groups. Okay, that's the 2 ways you can get stuck in the middle of analysis. Now, what should we do to avoid it? A. Always make sure your analysis is perfectly McKinsey. Watch our video on McKinsey for much more details. B. Align with the interviewer as much as possible. Interviewers rarely deduct points when you ask questions, and even if they do, it's much better to be on the side of asking too many questions than on the side of asking too few questions and ending up going into directions that don't fit with the interviewer's idea at all. C. Mentally plan for the worst. Even if you hope you never run into the situation, being mentally prepared for what to do and what to say will help. At least you'll stay calm and score some points and work your way out of the situation. Okay, so those were some very helpful tips on not getting stuck, but we can never completely eliminate that possibility. Assuming you've done everything you can to avoid getting stuck and you still do, what's the best course of action at that point? Step 1. Calmly and confidently admit to the interviewer that you are stuck. Do it with style. Everybody is stuck at some point, and in many cases, it's not his or her fault. So acting like this is something very normal and you're still in good control of the situation is a good idea. Step 2, literally say the following script. You can develop your own wording a little bit to be more natural, but this is what I would say. My whole analysis seems to go into a dead end, which means either part of my issue tree is not McKinsey or my method of breaking down doesn't isolate the problem. Either way, I would like to take a time out to take another look at it. Just by saying that, you get a plus point immediately. Step 3, now use your timeout to look into your analysis critically. If it's not McKinsey, fix it. If it's perfectly McKinsey, confidently say you need to break down the problem down through another perspective, aka restructure the issue tree or framework. Okay, this is a rather short video, but I hope it adds some value to your prep. I really hope to include an example here to demonstrate all these insights, but it's hard to do that without bringing a whole case. I hope you grasp these tips really well, and along throughout the process of practice, you'll get stuck at some point. Well, it's strange to hope you get stuck, but that's really what I mean. I hope you practice so hard and so much that all of the worst case scenarios, all of the worst mistakes, you'll get out during the practice. At that point, remember to apply the insights I show you in this video. I promise that you will feel this much more profoundly and much more helpful. Well, comment below for any questions or suggestions. Have you got stuck before? How was it? What was the cause for it? And what did you do? What would you do differently after seeing this video? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel too. At Management Consulting Prep, we believe everybody can make it to consulting. Are you a believer?